Good morning, and thank you. Thank you for joining us. When it was the invitation was sent, and you committed for that 1 year. What was going on? What was that? If you just go back, and then we can come back to it.
So, my name is Megha, and Usha actually was the third play in which I participated. I had just come to Auroville, and I was working actually with Arimani at Matri Mandir, and I had heard about the plays, and then Arimani started talking about Savitri. I think there were already two Savitri that had happened before. And when I heard Savitri, for me, it was very interesting because I always wanted to enter that space. But I think when you come and you hear people, everyone is always saying that it's a very intimidating text. So when Arimani suggested and shared more about the program, I thought it was a very good entry point to enter into the space of Savitri without the intimidation. And I had already known Aryamani for a while because we were working. So, and she would tell us stories about Sri Aurobindo and his life in the ashram. So she was a very good storyteller. So I knew that she would be able to hold the space very beautifully, and she has a background in theatre and all of that also. So it was a perfect opportunity for me to enter into the works of Savitri. And with Savitri, of course, you don't need so many lines, no? Even if there are just two lines and you're saying that, like over 3 months, it can kind of change the way you look and think also. So it was a very beautiful small step in a space where we were held with Arimani, but also with Shrimoy and Joy and Jean, because they've all been in this space for a long time. So it was a good atmosphere where someone new could be held, could learn from looking at these people, seeing how things were unfolding, to be practicing at Matri Mandir. So all of these things, I think, were a very beautiful way to enter into this process in a way, and into the text of Savitri. Because even later when we did Nachiketas and then Usha, there were different contexts, but Savitri was always like something that held things together. So for me, introduction to Savitri in that sense was very priceless. And as a new person in Auroville, it was also a very beautiful introduction to enter into that space. Yeah.
My name is Deven. When first time, it was actually Pala who told me about this project, and it's the first play I did with Arimani Usha. But before that, I had seen Nachiketas and the Savitri plays. I was in awe of what I saw, and Pala mentioned, and when she mentioned that this play is about from Vedas to Savitri. And it just so happened that about 2 months before this invitation came, on one morning, I just woke up and I wrote few shlokas from Vedas, from Upanishad, from Gita, from Dhammapada, and Savitri. And it felt like a synchronicity because there was this deep, yearning to kind of connect all of them and to study all of them. And when this invitation came, it was like, yes. Even it was like, invitation to the first meeting where she would explain it's a year-long commitment, what it is. But in my heart, it was like, whatever it is, I'm saying yes.
My name is Khushmita, and when I'm thinking back of, the first time when I met Arimani and got to know about the plays, I'm reminded of, meeting Megha, and she was like, I'm part of this play, and would you like to join us? And she said, come and meet Arimani, and then we see how things go. And that was when they were preparing for Nachiketas. And it was beautiful because I think I landed up on the Citadine terrace one day where everyone was practicing, and we were just a very small group. And the script was already there, and everyone was reading something from it. And it was just so beautiful to just see that story. I think something about that story, like the story of Nachiketas, just drew me. And I read the story, I read a few lines, and I felt like, wow, yeah, this is something that I really want to be a part of. And something that Megha said earlier, where it was like this beautiful doorway to enter into the field of Sri Aurobindo and the mother's work, to understand Savitri not from a mental framework, but through like stepping into a different doorway. Like, where through something co-created, a kind of field was being created for you to enter and experience something. Like, experience something not from the mental framework, but from another framework. So I think I feel very grateful. I feel very blessed to have stepped into that frame. And Nachiketas was like this first opportunity I got to see something that is created from literally from the grassroots to this magnificent set, not a set I would call it, but a experience for each one of us involved. And then when the second play came about, Usha and the Dawns to come, and Arimani invited us for the first time to meet, there was already, as Deven mentioned already, there was already a yes in the heart that, a 1 year process of putting yourself through all these different learnings, where there was body work, there was poetry, there was Sanskrit, there was chanting, and there was so much to learn, storytelling and stage presence and exercises, where for that 1 year it was almost like an immersion, that you're stepping into a yagna and you're just kind of being led into a certain space. So yes, I'm just happy that I said yes.
1 year is not a short time. How did you remain in your anchor throughout the process? How did you remain in that you were? This is not just a play you were working on, but if you could just share a little bit about the process of just being that discipline for yourself, or in whatever ways, what it took for you to be consistently showing up every day or every rehearsal, and also slowly in the longer time. So yeah, how did you prepare for it?
I think for me, the previous two programs were something that I think the general way in which Arimani worked was over 3-4 months in summer. So mostly we wouldn't have much else happening. It was a quieter time. There were not too many guests. So we had a lot of time to be available. And even in Auroville, the atmosphere is a lot more quieter. So those two experiences were different. The 1 year experience was for Usha was 1 year. We started off, but then I was feeling a bit unsure of the 1 year commitment because there's so much happening. I remember even meeting Arimani and talking to her and telling her that I'm not feeling sure in terms of the commitment, and there's going to be only more time that we'll have to give for rehearsal. And we had a chat, and she really held me in that space. And whatever little on fence I was, I think after that conversation, I very effortlessly moved in the direction of that I'm going to do this. And then it's been effortless. It was never like, it's too much or too less. And the fact that you're at Matri Mandir itself is a wonderful experience. So I would anyway go there, and I'm going there for rehearsal or for this. So then it was not so difficult, and it kind of just became a part of my daily life in that sense. So there wasn't really much preparation that was required, at least for me, apart from that initial little hesitation in terms of 1 year looks too much into the future, and life is very eventful at the moment. We were in those times. So I was a bit hesitant in terms of being able to commit, and will I be able to live up to it or not. But I think after the conversation with Arimani, I was feeling quite relaxed, and the fact that I could even tell her my apprehensions, and then she understanding that was very helpful. So then it wasn't too much of an effort.
I think for me, one is the text that which we were working on itself had such mantric power that I would look forward to read them, and that was one thing that helped. And more than that, also the collective. When you do it in a collective, the way Arimani held space and different facilitators, held space. Very soon, it became one of the most joyful part of the week. And it was also my first kind of project with Arimani, so I was really very, very enthusiastic, looking forward to that. And there was something in the energy of the group. It felt very nicely forming. I knew some people I was kind of meeting for the first time, but I think very soon a very beautiful group got formed, and that warmth of the group, the mantric power, and something that just kept me drawing in and kept me there.
I think for me it was this, when we heard that it was going to be a 1-year commitment, it initially just felt like, wow, like how are we going to process a year? Because before that, like, we had worked on Nachiketas for a few months, and like a year just sounded like a long period of time. But there was something, like, I think the calling was greater than that duration. Like the inner calling to be a part of something that is, larger than you. It was more of an invitation that can you step out of all that you know and step into something, kind of like stepping into the unknown. And I would say that in that entire period of the year, all of us in multiple ways went through many different journeys and periods and challenges. The atmosphere around us and the space, and of course Auroville by itself was in a different space. But I think each one of us kind of, in some way, I would say that this 1 year, at least for me, it anchored me in a very, very meaningful way. Because no matter what was happening, I knew that every Saturday I'm showing up for the rehearsal. So in spite of a lot of ups and downs and challenges and different spaces that were revolving around, I felt that it was a very, very grounding space to just show up every week, week after week. And I also feel like, sometimes when we make a commitment, and that somehow helps you to go through a lot of transitions, because you have this knowledge that, yes, I have made this commitment and I'm going to show up. And just seeing Arimani was like, it was an inspiration in many ways, because she had made this commitment along with all of us. And although each person's journey was traveling in a different way, but she was showing up every Saturday, and she was like kind of anchoring us and herself through that. So that was very inspiring to be a part of it.
Is Sri Aurobindo, is energy of Sri Aurobindo. And it was our experience from the very first play that we had done. It was very serious. When you have no experience, it was the first time that we performed something from Sri Aurobindo in Auroville. And but I had to reduce the play, so I have to ready to remove lines and even one scene from, because we have to come to 3.5 hours. The complete play will be 5 hours, and then we came down to 3.5 hours. So from that, and all the others that came, what was always holding is the experience of working in Sri Aurobindo. And this is something that it's not me. I don't feel that it's me. I feel that I'm there because I'm open to that. But he is the one that is doing. And he gives all the conditions, all the strengths, all we need, we come. And this attitude is something that I have within me. When we start a project, if you are sincere, if you are really knowing why we're doing it for, why we are doing and for whom we are offering, everything comes into place. Whatever we need in terms of people, in terms of technicians, in terms of finances, everything comes. Even at the last moment, everything comes. But one question that I would have like to you is to work with Sri Aurobindo. I mean, to work out kind of theater to be a need, but Sri Aurobindo's place in Savitri, in all this, the work in the body is fundamental. So without that, we cannot hold such texts. And so this is my question, if I can put. No? What is it for you? Because I keep insisting when we work with people, we have to have the presence. Without the presence, we cannot hold this text. It will be empty. So what is this presence? So how was it for you? Because you could feel that. Including, I mean, the comments I could hear after is how people are grounded, how they move, how they is so unifying, is so present. So how is it for you? To hold this presence, to call this presence, to feel your body. So how is it for you?
I think for me, I experience generally a lot in the body. I approach life a lot from the body. So in a way, that process kind of felt more like at home. I have done theater in other places, but we always kind of start with the text and then learning the lines and then performing. But in this experience, you're just kind of being with the text. You're just reading the lines. When we start off, there's no agenda. There's no like you have to say this line like this and get on with it. But there's this exploration that happens. So we're kind of reading the lines in different ways, with different intonations, with different approach. Even when we are reading lines on a regular basis, when we rehearse, we are in a different state of mind also during rehearsal. So someday something comes up, someday something else comes up. I even remember that I haven't really learned the lines. I did not have to, because we would say them so often that it would just kind of get into the system. And then somehow the mind kind of stops. I remember during one of the performances, I felt like I had forgotten the line. But my body remembered it because we had done it so many times and said it so many times and felt it so many times that I said it and it was correct. I even remember checking with another person in the group that did I say it correctly? But I have no memory of this. I just felt like my mind is blank, but something kind of came out of my mouth and I said the line and it was correct. So somehow that kind of became more part of the body. And I think when you are experiencing these lines in the body, it kind of somehow brings everything together and kind of centers you. So the fact that it was a very organic process, that we were reading lines and then slowly we would go to Matri Mandir and then we would move around with the lines and try to figure whether it's looking good here or looking good there, and the lines would just come. So very without mental influence in the beginning, it would just kind of become a part of the body, part of the act. Even the tone sometimes, or even the steps sometimes kind of start matching with what you're saying. And you're not thinking so much about it because it's just integrated in the body. So somehow it kind of frees, because maybe there's no initial rule of anything that, this is what we're going to do, this is where you're going to stand, this is how we're going to follow. There's a very organic development of things that happens, and then it kind of all starts coming together. And I think what I really enjoyed the most was to kind of do minimum and let maximum kind of come out of you. So nobody was trying too hard to kind of get their bodies going or moving, or hands here or hands there. So it was very minimum movement, and I think that somehow consolidated a lot of our energies, and that in itself kind of helped us kind of stay together and grounded, because then we were the only thing that we had to do was be in the body. There was no trying hard to make sense of anything else. So somehow I think the fact that there was minimalism to our actions kind of brought all the energy together and consolidated it as a point of force, and somehow that I feel held us together as in a very grounded and balanced posture, if I can say that, with the lines kind of integrated into that integration.
For me, it was a new learning experience. I don't have much background in theatre, but as you said, that this is not just theatre. This is, as Khush said, no, collective yajna. And the various, exercises that we were doing, whether it's ATB, whether it's sound, like even from which part of the body is the sound coming, how that plays a role. All this was a great learning experience. And I remember one of my lines was, let your very sense and body be the rapturous sensation and body of the divine. And in one of the rehearsals, I said it, and then because Aurelia knows that as part of our meditation practice, we observe sensation a lot, and he gave me certain inputs that when you're saying, do it from a different point. And then when I said, it was coming from a different place. So for me, I think it was a great learning experience. And my most, I would not say most, but certainly a very, very special moment was the minute of silence that we would do in the beginning before we go start practicing, just to ground yourself in that deep silence within, and then just allow things to flow. So it was a beautiful and a very new learning experience.
I think in our last play, like Usha and the Dawns to Come, there was this 1 year preparation, and it was beautiful because each rehearsal started with a lot of body work in different ways, and I think that there was a certain preparation for what was to unfold. The unfolding was emergent, because for the first 6 months, I think we didn't even have a script. We were kind of coming together, and we were practicing certain aspects of, it was more like a exploration, where we were exploring storytelling, we were exploring chanting, we were exploring movement in a different way. And through that, slowly the script formed, until at some point midway through the journey is when the script and the lines started coming into the forefront, and we started reading and going with the lines. But I think it was a very organic and emergent process. It wasn't that there was an idea formed and we were executing it, but it was more like as we were building the road was building us. So it was more like a journey unfolding, where we were coming together, and through those processes, something was forming, which eventually came into a full-bound script, and then we had like our roles, and the play kind of formed in that way. So I would say definitely, I think it was a very embodied experience, where we started like right from the base, the foundation of everything. The body work built into the spirit. So it was almost like, two things, the opposite ends meeting. And at the end, I think when we ultimately performed the play, like Megha said, it was not like us speaking those lines, but it was more like something flowing through us, which just had its own life. So I think that for me was a beautiful process to notice that it was not like in the doing or the being or in the actions, but it was more like something that was emerging from within.
Any fragrance or any insights or any the connection, especially with Sri Aurobindo?
I think for me, I feel the presence of Sri Aurobindo and Mother and the idea of Auroville very, very strongly during the performance. all the 3 times I have experienced magic. And I mean, it is very magical anyway. Like the whole atmosphere is very magical with Banyan Tree and Matri Mandir and the audience. So it's very beautifully coming together. But there are very clear signs of their presence. I remember during Savitri, the sky was filled with rain clouds, like literally there. When we finished and we walked out, and then we looked up and we were like, how is this possible? Like, why is it not raining? And then there was a moment, like there were maybe 2 or 3 minutes where everyone could sit in silence and kind of soak the whole thing in. And then there was a downpour. It's incredible. And I've experienced this every time during performance. I mean, apart from the fact that it's already very potent in a way, just these things that happen is just unbelievable. And for me, whatever I experienced during the rehearsal or even during rehearsal, no, you don't see this magic so much. The minute we perform, for me, it's like everything that I experienced was worth being here in this moment, doing exactly what I'm doing. So I think the performance is the time when I feel all of us being held, all of us being together. Somehow the whole universe kind of coming together. The audience is as active in a passive way in the program. The participants are there, and I love the fact that there is no real entry or exit in a way in these programs. So you walk from the green room, you enter, you finish, and you walk back, and it just feels like a part of your life, no, not something separate or not something different, and somehow it kind of touches your life in that continuous way as days go on, that you carry that magic with you into the day, because it was not so separate, it was not on a stage, it was not it was not mentally created in a certain format, but like this effortless part of your life that you came, you did, and you went, and that everything was held with the energy of Sri Aurobindo and Mother. And and for me, that is the most magical time, and I think that is something that I look forward to when I'm rehearsing, and that is something I carry with me when it's over. That it kind of lives on with you in your experience. I mean, even this rain-filled cloud. Every time I think about it, I feel like I'm still experiencing that thing in my body, in my being. Even last time we had the shooting star when Arjun says
My myths are
my
dispelled.
myths are dispelled, and there was a shooting star, and Deven and I saw that, and I'm like, okay, we are exactly where we're supposed to be. We have our answers, and that someone's watching over us. So I think for me, yeah, the performance and the coming together of lights and sound and people and audience and the program and the space and of course Mother and Sri Aurobindo and Auroville is this fullness during the program, and I think that's something that I hold very dear as an experience for me.
I think for me, when Sri Aurobindo says, all life is yoga, and being part of this project gave that deeper understanding of, theater or different aspects of how we do. If we do it consciously, then everything becomes yoga. And I also felt like, I remember this one evening in our practice session when we were at the citadines, and it was raining heavily, and in that lightning, in that raining, we did chanting together, and to me that was a very special moment. And I really felt that, as you said, that there is this blessing, and it was special that while we were looking at Vedas, Upanishad, Gita, Savitri, but we were all looking it through Sri Aurobindo's lens, because one can look at Veda and Gita from a very narrow lens also. Whereas when we were looking at it through his lens, it gave a very special meaning. When he says, no, we don't belong to the past or to the moons of the future. So So in a way, I felt that there was kind of blessing from all the rishis, different, when we were talking about, different Upanishads. So all those rishis were blessing us, and because we are seeing it through the lens of Sri Aurobindo through his text, I just felt a special grace throughout.
I think picking up from Deven, I think it really felt like that. It was as though there was an invocation to a certain energy. And of course, it was like an invocation to Sri Aurobindo because we were in his 150th anniversary year, and the project was kind of created to commemorate that. So I think there was that invocation to his work, and that grace was kind of holding the thread of this entire process. And I feel that, like Megha mentioned, the thunderstorms, and then even mentioned the different chanting, there were moments throughout this year where there were moments which we couldn't explain. Like, wow, like, did this just happen? So there were obstacles, and then they were suddenly overcome. There were people who would join, and there were like all these elements being added in a very different way, I would say. Like, I think what it took for this whole process to come together, at least for the last play for Usha, it was, you can call it a miracle, but also it was very lifelike. It was like in our daily process what was taking place. But yes, there was like that larger than life hand that was guiding it all, and that was very felt. It was felt in that entire space and process. And I think also, working with Arimani, who was also kind of working with the process in a very different way, where it did not feel like we were doing a production or that we were going to perform, but it was more like as though we were just kind of tuning our own instruments, and she was holding space for that in a very gentle way, as to if these instruments are tuned, then the grace will flow. So it was almost like we were just all tuning ourselves to kind of come into a certain magical space that was created for Usha. And I still remember, like, every time, like, I was in love with that opening lines of Usha, the lines from the Rig Veda, and I still remember a few of them. She follows to the goal of those that are passing on beyond. She is the first in the eternal succession of the dawns that are coming. And every time I would like read those lines, it just brought so much hope. It just felt like, wow, like if not do this, what else would I really want to do? Like, if I could just read these lines every day of my life and be inspired by that, like what else is really there that is more important than this? And then when we started rehearsing at Matra Mandir, and you would go, and we would go around the time when the sun was just kind of in its sunset space and that beautiful sky, and then going there and reading those lines would just make it all the more embodied. Like, you would feel like, yeah, you're doing something which is much more than you. It's like you're putting something out there, like when they even use the words mantric power. You're using the mantric power of this text and you're putting it out there. It's almost like a manifestation of something taking place. So, yeah, it brought me to tears many times. It brought me to a lot of internal reflections many times, and it really worked on the internal for me in many ways. So I'm grateful for that.
It's like I see from the other side, no? And I have even forgotten about the rain, about the shooting star. No? But it is a reality, It was the rain after a few minutes and I finished. So we started this beautiful rain, the shooting star. And then I have to share also my personal experience with this kind of phenomenon. I was working with the Krishna scene, Krishna and Arjuna and Pala were there. And we are repeating this scene, repeating. And at a certain moment, it was really one of these moments, that you don't know how to describe. So I was sitting, facing the Matmandir, facing the two boys, Varun and Nidish. And we have Matmandir, and we have the full moon on top of the Matmandir. And it's a moment, even now when I share, I feel kind of goosebumps, And this moment we had this presence. It was amazing. All of us, 4 of us, not ever there, we felt that. At this moment when they finished the scene, we stayed in silence and we felt that we have this presence. It was very, very beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful moments in the whole thing was this moment. And of course, after so many of them, but this was my personal witnessing of this. So no, really, I feel very grateful to be able to do that, to have people like you together, that you create this bond. Because this is something from Sri Aurobindo also. Sri Aurobindo created this space to us to meet each other. It's amazing that we meet in that space, and it is something that lasts. It's not one. No, it's there. And I hope that we have another occasion to create a new space also, to create a space again where you can call something. But I insist that it is not us. For me, it's so clear, that, and I don't want to. I repeat that again and again. I don't want to feel pretentious saying that it's not me, because no. When I say it's not me, it's because it is not me, and that's why I can say it was beautiful, because it's not me. It's not my thing. It is something else that is guiding us, giving us the light, and giving us the inspiration, the conditions, putting us together, that you can manifest something. So I feel so grateful, deeply grateful for all that. So, thank you so much.